What's going on, guys? Gemworks here, coming at you with a new sculpt of a fan favorite. Debuting in Generation 2, and still relevant to this day. We have Tyranitar, the armor Pokemon. Been a fan of this guy ever since I was a kid, and I think that it's time to do him justice alongside the evolutionary line, that being Larvitar and PUPITAR, in the form of creating a fun, dynamic model. Let me walk you through how I made this. Alright, so how about we get right into it? As you guys have probably seen with my previous videos, I like to start with the head. I think it's a good reference point, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the model. I would say that the head, especially with monster designs, are probably their most iconic part. And also, which is definitely a double-edged sword, because it's so iconic, it's also the least forgiving. So if you do the head right the first time, you could kind of forgive maybe some minor inaccuracies in other parts of the body. But if the head is off, the whole thing looks off. So, as you can see here, we're just using a couple of cones to set up the three pointed crest above Tyranitar's head, using some more cones that are flattened for the spikes. A bunch of spheres all over the body. Pokemon has a ton of round shapes, and now we're just refining the crest. As you know, little adjustments have a huge impact. Time to add some placeholder nostrils, and now we're going to do the eyes. Typical with a lot of big Pokemon, triangular shaped eyes for that menacing look. And here we go. Here is our base T-Tar. Not so bad, strong foundation. Yes, looks a little bit goofy, but all base poses do. My recommendation is to push the base as far as you can without needing to sculpt, and that'll help with the overall accuracy. As you can see, I created a rig, and now it's time to pose. We're gonna add a simple cylinder for the base, just so this big guy has somewhere to stand. And now it's time to start adjusting. So, as you can see, I'm gonna blow it up right here, so you get a better shot. This artwork of Lance the Tyranitar is by Ken Sugimori, aka the GOAT. And I thought the pose was always just emanating aura. Like it is a fantastic pose for a Tyranitar. I love the shot of his back. I think that the tail in the front of the camera is just fantastic. I love the arch. Overall, just a great composition. And Lance never even had a Tyranitar, at least to my knowledge, in the main games. So basically, Lance and the Tyranitar are just trying to aura farm, and that's just awesome.
Nice.
Absolutely adoring the cleanliness here of the indented shapes. As you can see, all over Tyranitar's armor, there are these features that are cut in, and I'm just using the mask and the gizmo to really refine those shapes. Without further ado, here is the base of Tyranitar. Really love the composition. Obviously, this was based off of some fantastic art, but I really took some steps to smooth out the various components and make sure that he looks dynamic and very natural. Next, it's time to do Lil Baby Larvitar. Let's start by cutting up the crest.
See this shape on chain. Okay, how about monkey right? That's similar.
There you go, not so bad. And now we're gonna move on to the body. Again, as very typical with Pokemon, especially as they become more simplified or in their baby form, their first stage, right? Any basic Pokemon. Lots of round shapes here. Larvitar just has some big round thighs, these thin arms, and now we're gonna do the tail. All it is a cone, and then very clever, we're gonna take a flattened cube and then use our wonderful radial symmetry to create that array that sits around the cone, making it look all flared. After attaching it to the body, we are going to do the angled eyes. And after adding a couple of minor details, like that diamond-shaped indentation around his body and the belly, Larvitar has been completed as well. Right now, he's kind of just standing there, menacingly, but you'll see we'll bring him to life. Last but not least, we're going to create PUPITAR. Overall wasn't so bad, was planning on using cones, but abandoned that completely and decided to extrude the spines off the side of that mask-like shape that is his face. Here we're just gonna smooth out those extrusions, make them a little bit more natural, And since the rear of the body looks mostly like a cone, it just kind of looks like cursed evil ice cream at this point. Look, you can literally see it. It looks like alien ice cream. But no matter, you'll see that as we add some more shapes, such as these little spines that are in the midsection, finishing up the crest, and of course adding the Tyranitar line's signature indentations, you'll see that he looks a lot more natural. Let's begin to smooth out those shapes, and here is the base of PUPITAR. As you could imagine, we don't really need to worry that much about rigging. This guy doesn't move at all. The Pokédex entry claims that it moves around by expelling pressurized gas from the rear. I don't know about all that, but that's what it says. After setting all our characters in a nice pose, so you see that LARVITAR sits on Tyranitar's back and PUPITAR's hanging out in the background, we are going to use tubes to create a giant wave of sand. There you have it. That is our base model. I wanted to have the sand flow in the direction of Tyranitar's energy, and I think putting LARVITAR on top of Tyranitar as a protector but also a threat really captured the character, and PUPITAR is using his gas to fly around the background. Now let's go ahead and add some color. You'll see that I'm playing around with the roughness, trying to capture the color as best as I can. The way that I generally do this is by beginning with the color picker. And of course, since the colors are going to vary from reference to reference, let's say right here I'm using a mock-up of another model that Egg Studio made, which looks fantastic. You kind of have to play around with the overall saturation and hue to make it come to life. Like here in this reference, it looks a little bit too desaturated. I think the colors are a bit too light, so I wanted to make the skin look a bit richer. Of course, this is nicely complemented by the near pitch black indentations scattered around the armor. He's also got a little bit of blue on him, like in his belly. And of course, these colors are even further exemplified by his beady eyes, which I wanted to bring even more attention to by outlining the shape. I can't wait for you guys to see the final work. Next is LARVITAR. Very similar base color. The majority of the body looks nearly identical in terms of color. He has big red eyes with black pupils, and then he has these neat, angular, almost cat-like features that support and contrast the eye against the rest of the skin. Now we're gonna fill in a couple of the complementary features like the mouth. And last but not least is PUPITAR, which is super easy. Just this nice shade of what looks like periwinkle. Same thing. Going to add the dark to contrast all of that. And just like LARVITAR, has really beady red eyes. And now, without further ado, here's the final work. All right, ladies and gentlefish, what are your thoughts? The mindset here was the orange of the sand complementing the general green was going to work well to begin with, and then the vibrant dark blue background was really going to bring it home. Love the dynamics here, love the way that all three of them came out, happy with the pose, and someday soon, I'm looking to get this guy printed and eventually sold. As I've said before, Pokemon are always a great learning opportunity, fantastic shapes, incredible design. But thanks for sticking around to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. If you'd leave a like, if you did enjoy, and share your comments below, that would be wonderful. And as always, I can't wait to show you what's next. Thank you again, and take care.